Okay. So as I said, I'm gonna do a video to conclude my thought on the Pbirdman mod. But before I do so, I want to correct a mistake on my side. As you may know, if you follow this, the only thing I quote-unquote shit to get were the Fortune Sphere, because I thought it would be too annoying to get. I was wrong. Here I'm back at a save where I didn't add all the Fortune Spheres yet, and I'm just gonna show you what I should have done, and I thought to do, but I didn't do it because I'm an idiot. So basically, what you need are X Potion, Phoenix Downs, and some armor with Auto Potion, Auto Phoenix, and 3 on your character. Not Auto Haste. I explain why not Auto Haste. And now we're gonna fight Soldiers of Fortune. So this fight is actually easier with not breaking point limits. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna attack the Greatest Sphere because they guard each other at the end. So attacking the Greatest Sphere make us attack the Earth Eater. Counter, which we do not care. Oh, yeah, we attack him only 3 times. And we do a Chocobo Wing to set Ast on us. The reason is because of that. When he takes 300,000 damage, even if the last damage are from his Drain Touch, he will go down. And when he go down, if they haven't acted, the Greatest Sphere will protect the Earth Eater while he is down. But since he's down, attacking the Greatest Sphere will not allow you to attack the Earth Eater. So now that he's down, and he's quite delayed, because we have the Ast, we're gonna just go hard on him, basically. We're just not gonna heal at all. We're just gonna attack like crazy. You do not want to attack the Greater Sphere because the Greater Sphere has a counter. Really just ignore the Greater Sphere. Except if she asked herself. If she asked herself, then yeah, dispel the Ast. Alright. We do not care because we have Auto Potion. And this is why you want X Potion. Okay, so Oron has lost his S too. Okay, so Hydraulic Press, no worries, because we have Auto Potion. And this is why, right there, not having breaking point limit make Fortune Sphere easier to grind. Because with Auto Potion and X Potion, you do not need to heal, basically. You do not have to worry about Hydraulic Press. Let's just continue to attack. He should die eventually. I might not kill him actually. We're gonna see. maybe that will not be enough to kill him. Ah, again. Well, that's unfortunate. Yeah, the Greater Sphere is really the biggest pain in the ass in this fight. Still not enough to kill him. I might have to switch out Riku for someone else. Oh, come on! Can you stop spamming that? Yeah, this is the worst RNG when she spam that, basically. And for some reason we decide to not revive. So we're gonna take someone else. Yeah, that's an unfortunate set of turn, basically. Yeah, that's really unfortunate. You see why that Greater Sphere is really the pain in the ass of this fight. Alright. Oh, it can go faster, but, well, sadly this is quite RNG because of the... well, because of the Greater Sphere. If the Greater Sphere decides to spam Hydraulic Press like she did, well, you're kind of fucked. And so, yeah. Yeah, so Fortune Sphere aren't as bad to grind as I thought. There is some RNG to it, but like this fight took what, 5-6 minutes? This is still not ideal, but this works. In any case, this was just to show you this, because that was the only thing I modded in my save file. This was the Fortune Sphere. As you can see, this was not as bad as I did. I mean, seriously, I complain about that, but I did go through the trouble of grinding 600 Dark Matter with the Brotherhood arm. I think in comparison, the Fortune Sphere were much faster to grind, would have been much faster to grind compared to that. I think I was just tired and I didn't thought about it. Well, obviously, the best armor, this is just the bare minimum. The bare minimum. Obviously, the best armor to grind luck would be Auto Phoenix, Auto Potion, Auto Protect to get resistance to Hydraulic Freeze, and Auto Haste. Well, maybe not Auto Haste, because when you have Auto Haste, their first turn takes longer to come. So yeah, this might depend. So yeah, that was something I wanted to clarify before starting my conclusion of the mod, because this is the only thing I modded, and I think I needed to show that it was possible to do it legitimately, and I could have done it. So I'm a little mad at myself for that. In any case, let's talk about something else. Alright. So, hello everyone. This is, I think, the first video where I will talk fully in English. So, as a disclaimer, first, before we start out, I'm not native English. I'm a French originally. So, I want to first apologize if my English is really bad, and yeah, sorry about that. I'll try my best. So I wanted to go in a place cool and relaxing so that we can talk about the Pbirdman mod, because yeah, this has been a long journey, and as I said in French, I have a lot to say about this mod, man, and we'll probably go to the Monster Arena to show you some stuff. But in any case, as I promised, I'll do this conclusion in English. First off for Pbirdman, because I don't think he understands French very well. So I think this would be better for him. Well, better to understand anyway. So, I have some global ideas of how I'm gonna structure my talking. But this is the first time I do a video like this, so please forgive me if this isn't good, it is bad. But let's start first. Before starting to criticize the mod, I want to say it again. I want to say thank you to Pbirdman. Thank you for this amazing mod, for all this work, because at the end of the day, this is a mod, and a mod takes a lot of time to do. Unless you really rushed it, this takes a lot of time to do. And I think people need to be reminded that Pbirdman was alone for this mod, and you have to consider, check out the internet. There is no documentation for FF10, man. There is absolutely zero documentation for Final Fantasy X. The only way you can mod this game right now is learning how to code, how to read code, and basically do stuff through Xedit. And having tried to do a mod myself, I can tell you that a mod needs a really long time to perform. Even more so when you don't have a helping tool. Like Pbirdman didn't have a helping tool for this. At least not helping tool that are known. So I think really, whether you like or hate this mod, I think Pbirdman deserve respect for all this work. Because you can say whatever you want, you can say that the mod is poorly designed, you can say anything you want, but you can't say that Pbirdman didn't put a lot of effort in this. And I'm sorry to say, but currently there is no other mod for FF10, no other mod that goes to this extent. The other mod I saw on internet were just basically stat modifying. The only mod I played before this for Final Fantasy X was a mod called Final Fantasy X Punishment by London Ray, which was good for a hard mod, but was nowhere close the level of editing that the Pbirdman mod did. And just for that, Pbirdman deserves respect. And deserves a big thank you. So thank you, Pbirdman, for this mod. Thank you for your hard work. The mod is not perfect, obviously. No mod is gonna be perfect. There is always gonna be mistakes. But I think really this mod is a good thing. This is the first time a FF10 mod actually really change, or at least try to change, the structure of the game and how it works. There is nothing that has so much level of editing for Final Fantasy X, and given how hard it is to mod FF10, I doubt there will be other mod like this for FF10 until quite some time. Sorry. Sorry. Something in my throat. So, in any case, let's break down the Pbirdman mod. So I want to first talk about myself, my experience with Final Fantasy X, because obviously I'm a little YouTuber, I'm a really small people. I don't have thousands of subscribers, and I'm a French guy originally, so yeah. So my experience with Final Fantasy X, this is kind of a love or hate relationship with Final Fantasy X. I am not an hardcore gamer of Final Fantasy X. Let me make that clear. I mean, the biggest accomplishment I did for Final Fantasy X was a Nosfer Green run, and I only did the story. I wasn't interested in the Nosfer Green run for the post game, and the Penos Extreme Challenge. These are really the only special challenge I did. I don't want to say hardcore, because maybe now for hardcore player of FF10, this are probably easy challenge. But yeah, I'm not an hardcore gamer. I did completed Final Fantasy X 100%, like 4 or 5 times at that point. And yeah, so I'm not an hardcore gamer. I'm not someone that do a lot of challenge for this game, and overall, no, I'm not into restrictive challenge anymore. Low level challenge or stuff like that, and doesn't appeal to me anymore. So this is why I prefer mods personally for Final Fantasy game. I like to have a challenge that makes me use my gameplay. Really, I don't have to restrict myself. I want a good challenge where I have to use all the gameplay, or if I have to grind, I can grind. I just don't like having a restriction of myself. Except for a few games, but these are some exceptions. And about Final Fantasy X, my global opinion has always been like this. I love the main game of FF10. I think the story is great, and I think the gameplay for the main game is good. It's too easy when you know how to do it, but this is like all JRPG, let's be real, and this is like all Final Fantasy, let's be real there. Final Fantasy games have never been strategic, they have never been that hard. And Final Fantasy X has a good gameplay, it has some good ideas, it has some good boss fight. I really think the boss fight in the story mode are better than most people give them credit for. And I really like the gameplay of Final Fantasy X on Fury. Because this is where I have issue with the game, is with this post-game. The post-game in Final Fantasy X, in my opinion, always sucked. I'm gonna show you and try to explain to you why I do not like the post-game of FF10. My problem with the post-game of FF10 is, first off, it is grindy as hell. You have to grind a ton to make it through on FF10, and this is already the case in the vanilla game. The other point I really hate about the post-game of FF10 is how the game kinda take his mechanics and throw them into a dumpster, and it's like it doesn't matter anymore. Like, let me show you what I mean by that. You see this? Customize. That's a good idea. You can customize ability. You can make your own weapon, your own armor. And this is good. This is a good idea in concept. The problem with this is, for weapon, for instance, you have the celestial weapon. The celestial weapon ignore defense, so they are better in every way possible when it comes to the mage. It's absolutely crazy to go fight something like Penance without the Celestial Weapon, because you will just deal substantially less damage. And so you're stuck with the Celestial Weapon. And the Celestial Weapon have their ability completely set. You have no freedom on what ability you want to give. They are set for you. There is no thought process. You just do the annoying minigames, get your item, power up your Celestial Weapon, and you never had to bother with customizing weapon anymore. This is not an issue. You see what I mean? A good mechanic in theory that is just throw away like that. Same, kinda not as bad with armor. You still have some freedom with armor, but the problem with armor is there is what I like to call lack of balance, and there is ability that just overshine the other. Like auto haste. Who the fuck will play this game without auto haste? Come on. Let's be real. Nobody is gonna not use auto haste. If you're playing without breaking point limit, you're gonna have auto protect. You're gonna have auto potion. These are standard ability, you see. And when it all comes to this, there is a lot of ability that just doesn't matter anymore. And this is kinda bad, in my opinion. This is sad. Because basically, the customization really doesn't matter in the end. You just do the same thing for everyone and get on with it. Not mentioning that some of this ability has really insane requirements. Like, obviously, you all know what ability has an insane requirement, which is the ribbon for 99 Dark Matters, and let's be real, unless you really want to do the Penance Extreme Challenge, or you are a completionist, you are not gonna grind ribbon. Not. Like, in the best game you can do with stun proof and sleep proof. You don't need ribbon in the best game. So this is for the vanilla game. So how is it for the Pbirdman mode game? Well, it sadly is kinda the same issue. For Pbirdman mode, the story mode was really great. I really enjoyed the story. The story didn't require any grind. No matter what some other YouTubers said, I did not need any grind for the story, except for Ject, which I will come back to later. The story was overall good, and I think the biggest improvement was the random encounter. Random encounter were really great, man. I really enjoyed the random encounter. There was never a case where there was a monster where I feel like I was powerless, I couldn't do everything. I saw, for instance, some people complaining about the elemental casting Dispel. Well, did you know that you could use, I don't know, Provoked? Because, yeah, Provoked work on the elemental, it prevents them from doing Dispel, so you can use null spell, and for the Dark Elemental, it even kill them, because you can just provoke them, cast Reflect on the character that provoked them, and they will cast Flare on him, and they will kill themselves, basically. And I think for all mobs, there was always at least one statue effect that worked. Multiple. Now there was a difficulty spike at Mount Gegazet. And even a little in Camland. There was a difficulty spike there, especially in regard to agility. Enemies were starting to have a lot of agility at Mount Gegazet. But I found out that you could petrify almost everything in Manga Gazette, so I wasn't that bothered with it, honestly. I did have to run a lot from some fight using the flee ability, which is there. Granted, when I was doing the story, it was costing, it was free. Now it costs 5 MP since 2.6e, if I'm not mistaken. So there was always the option to flee, you know, that you don't have to fight all random encounter, and you don't have to do it, because you don't need to grind, honestly. The boss in the story mode were, for the most part, good. I never felt that I was under-leveled and I needed to grind out to beat them. It was just all came down to seeing what pattern they have. Sometimes there are some statue effect that work. Like one that come into me, for instance, was Sinspawn Gui. I actually found out afterward that Sinspawn Gui could be provoked, which makes him a lot easier to manage. Breaks also work for some bosses, and I just think their moveset and AI was good overall. Now there was, I think, 3 boss fights in particular I didn't like in the story mode, and those were Defender X or Z. I think it's X. Yeah, Defender X, the robot you fight before Manga Gazette. I think that fight was kinda stupid. Because you can inflict armor break on this thing. And if you do armor break, the fight is like 3 times faster. But the only way to land armor break was to use Oron's Vanishing Blade. And you have like a 25% chance to land it. And this was ridiculous. This was stupid. So it was basically either you do it without armor break, and in this case it takes a long time, or you do it with armor break. You basically reset until you get the armor break, and once you land armor break, it's GG. It just takes substantially less amount of time. So I didn't like Defender X, and more globally this is another issue with the mod that I'm gonna talk about later. The other fight I didn't like was Overdrive Scene. Overdrive Scene was just a grind check, and I really dislike it. Because I don't like being over level, I don't like being too much over level. I want to do fight where at a level where I have some challenge with them, and for the most part this is what I did. And Overdrive Scene was not that. Overdrive Scene was just a grind check. You either add enough damage to kill him in time, or you die, simply. And I really didn't like the Overdrive Scene fight. And he has a new attack, Achu, that deal massive damage, and deal damage depending on your max HP, which I think was kind of a dick move. I really did not like Overdrive Scene. And there was Ject. I didn't like Ject. Ject for me was a core. Mainly because I had some circumstance that makes it even more frustrating. People that follow my Let's Play know what's happened. And yeah, I had a really bad time with Ject, and I just like Overdrive Scene, I thought Ject was more of a grind check than anything else, because like his ultimate Ject shot was 5000 fixed damage, and I heard that now it is even stronger for some reason. So yeah, You either had double HP to survive it, or you fucked up. Basically, there was also the meteor thing that happened only one time, and I don't know why. And yeah, I wasn't a fan of Ject. If I had to say anything else about the story part and the random encounter, I had to say the second part of Sin, and this is one of the reasons I have a lot of frustration with Ject. In Sin, you had 3 fights that were impossible to escape, and I think having random fights that are impossible to escape is just a terrible idea. This is a terrible idea for multiple reasons. First, sometimes you do not want to fight, you just want to progress. Or when you have to do a backtracking like I was doing against Jet, you don't want to fight, you just want to run away and go to the boss straight away. This is what I wanted for Ject, but I couldn't because I got 6 random encounters in the row that were unescapable, and that was terrible. Let's just put it that way. That was terrible, and I think having random encounter being unescapable doesn't work with the kind of game that is FF10. It works with game like Chrono Trigger, where the fights are not random and you can avoid it, or when at least the screen have a fixed number of random encounter, which is the case with Chrono Trigger. But here it just doesn't work, and the second reason it was really annoying was obviously for the monster catching. Catching monster in Sin was a core. It was so annoying, cause when you have like one monster that you're missing to have the 10, you want to run away from every other fight, obviously. You can't in Sin. You can't, because fights are unescapable and you have to fight them anyway. Even though this is nothing more but a massive waste of time. So I think unescapable encounter should be removed entirely from the thing. Because I think they just get in the way and they add nothing to the difficulty. So I think this is my biggest complaint about the main game. Yeah. If I have to say about good bosses, I think my favorite boss, not only in the main game but in the entire mode, was Simor Omnis. Now I know you can be over level and kill Simor Omnis by just spamming attack, which is why I think I did it well to do it at my level. Because Simor Omnis was a great fight. This was the most fun fight in the entire mod for me. He has so much different pattern, but everything was predictable, everything could be react to, you could strategize, it takes some trial and error. But this was such a satisfying fight to learn. Simor Omnis was a great job, and it was really impressive in terms of modding. So to me, that was my favorite fight of the mod. As a whole. There is honestly one fight that comes close, but really Simor Omnis was amazing. And it's a shame that you can be over level. And basically just keep the mechanic of the fight. In any case, yeah. But that was for the main game. So the main game is good. I have nothing to complain about it. Now we enter the post-game. And yeah, this is where stuff became less positive, sadly. We're gonna go quickly to the monster arena, because I have to talk about the monster arena. So I see you back there. Alright, the Monster Arena. Probably the place where you're gonna spend most of your time in this mod. So, let's talk about the post-game. As it was predictable, the post-game is not good. Sadly. It is better in some aspect than the vanilla game, but as a whole it's still not really good. Well, I don't want to say bad, because there is some things I liked about the post game, but it is impeded by a serious issue. So, first I want to address some general issue that I saw people on a playthrough of another YouTuber were kinda mad at. And I know not everybody is gonna agree with me. And this is very subjective at the end of the day. So, one of the biggest change in the post-game was the Celestial Weapon. The Celestial Weapon were pushed back until you beat Nemesis, unlocked Nemesis. Which, for those who still don't know at that point, to unlock Nemesis you need to have catch every monster, just like in Vanilla. And you also need to beat every fight before unlocking Nemesis or superpowers. And once you unlock Nemesis, this is where you can get the Celestial Weapon. I know some people didn't like that change. I personally think this is a great change. Because like I said, once you get the Celestial Weapon, the customizing weapon mechanic become completely useless. You do not have to customize weapon, and in the Pbirdman mod, at least that mechanic is relevant until Nemesis, which I think is great, because I think it's sad that the mechanic get thrown away eventually, but at least in Pbirdman it stay relevant for longer, and this has allowed some ability to shine, like piercing. Piercing was a worthless ability in Vanilla for the post game. Once you get Celestial Weapon ignore defense, so why would you customize a weapon with piercing when you have a weapon that just ignore defense? And yeah, so piercing was really a good ability in Pbirdman mode. Other ability, you are just more freedom in what you want to customize. The strength plus 20% and magic plus 20% with good ability. I didn't use that much the counter, attack and magic counter ability. I didn't use them that much. Magic booster was really good because magic is good in this mod. For the Monster Arena at least. Because like customizing weapon, magic become completely worthless outside of 2 fights in Vanilla game, which are Jumbo Flambeau and Nesslug, and for Nesslug you can use an overdrive instead. So it is really only useful for 1 fight. Half MP cost is also good, and this is another really good change. The 1 MP ability has been removed. And this is a good choice for me, because this make MP matter. So half MP cost was a good ability, a really great one in fact. And yeah, I think this was just a good change because we could still play around with customizing weapon, even if, as always, there are abilities that are worthless, like the strength plus 5%. I mean, even in the early game, this ability are not really good. The 20% one is really the big one. The touch ability and strike ability aren't that useful too. And the elemental aren't either. So yeah, that was kinda disappointing, but this is a Final Fantasy game, and sadly this is FF10. The other change was of course auto haste being pushed back until Nemesis, and I think likewise this is a great change, because I mean, if you had auto haste right away, first all the armor will have auto haste, if this was the case, but first this will make the Astega ability useless, basically. And the whole mechanic about buff lasting for some turn completely useless too, which I think is a good idea. And the only thing I do not like about buffs being temporary, lasting some turn, is that sadly there is no way in the game to put some visual clue as to when a statue has run off, except for Ast and Regen, but you don't have a clue for Reflect, Shell, Protect, and you also cannot know how many turns you have left with the statue before they wear off. You just have a global idea, but you can't really know in advance because some enemy have reduced the number of turns. So this is a good mechanic. I just think the technical limitation of FF10 makes it not as good as it could be. But yeah. And also the biggest change was obviously that magic was much more useful in this mod than it was ever in the game. And I saw people complain that you need to spam Ultima. Yeah, you do need to use Ultima a lot. Which, I mean, I don't mind, because in the base game you spam Quick Hit. So this is still spamming one ability in my book. But the fact that you have to spam Ultima is sadly linked to a big problem with Final Fantasy X that I would have hoped Pbirdman would have fixed. And that problem is, well, let's talk about some issue. The big issue with the post-game of FF10, and sadly that is still the case in the Pbirdman mode, is that this statue effect ability doesn't work most of the time. They are useless. They are truly useless. And I talk more when I talk about character balance. But the statue effect are useless because everything is immune to statue effect at one point. And when they are not immune, the statue effect is either useless, like something is weak to dark, but the only attack they use cannot be evaded anyway, so it's worthless. Or they have a really high resistance that just override this ability. Like, let's take a big example. For instance, in opposite attract, Juggernaut is can be armor broken, but the armor break ability has 100% chance to land the statue effect. But Juggernaut has a 100% resistance to it. What this means is, armor break cannot inflict armor break on Juggernaut. And to inflict armor break, you need either a frag grenade or Orange Overdrive again. This is concerning. So yeah, sadly the statue effect weren't really useful. And the other issue also is, well, basically like the vanilla, the elemental game is just completely ignored. ignored. You're not gonna exploit weakness, because most of the time there is not weakness. There is no weakness at all. Or the monster just absorb or immune to element. And this was already the case in Vanilla game. And this is both ways, by the way. Like, the elemental game is shut down, basically, for your offense. It also a bit shut down for your defense, because even attacks that are elemental looking or not elemental, like Dark Section Thunderja, for instance, which is not lightning elemental despite its animation. And I think this is kind of bad. Now, there is another modification that people, from what I saw, didn't like, and is that many enemies have basically attack that inflict statue effect that go through ribbon and proof ability. Now, this is a big one, and I saw a lot of people getting angry at that. So here's the thing, why I think this is a good change. Yes, I think this is a good change. Why? Because basically, we already saw that the elemental game is shut down. The statue effect game is shut down too, because you cannot inflict them most of the time. So really, basically, if you add ribbon and make nothing go through it, in the end, there is just nothing the enemy can do against you. He can just do damage, and this is just become a story of taking the damage and healing enough. There is no statue effect in place. You see, statue effect in JRPG like that, or what makes JRPG not being just math, basically. This is a factor, and I think having a statue effect that goes through immunity is a good idea to keep the statue effect having an impact on the fights, if you see what I mean. And for people saying that ribbon is worthless because of this, I suggest you play the mod before talking, because that is not the case. Ribbon is still very useful. There is a lot of things that are blocked by ribbon, and I saw a lot of people, well, you can just make proof armor, but come on, let's be real. You're really gonna make an armor with each proof, considering you have to put things like auto haste, break point limit, and stuff like that. You're really gonna make armor for every statue effect. This could work until penance, at least. This could work. I'm not saying it couldn't work, but you will make it even more painful than grinding ribbon. And yeah, and penance anyway is unbeatable without ribbon. And I think some Dark Aeon aren't either beatable without ribbon. So ribbon is still useful. And I'm not talking about being broken. I'm just talking about the utility. Because people say, well, it's useless to make ribbon early on. It's still useful. It still is useful. I really don't know why people say that, but in any case. So that's my point about ribbon. Now let's talk about the fight of the post game, because there was a lot of them, and most of them happen in the monster arena. So let's break it down. The Guardian Run, I think, were made to be fight after you catch all monster. You catch all monster, maybe you defeat Ultima Weapon and beat that fish boss to unlock Anima, I always forgot his name. Which was actually a fun fight in the Pbirdman mode, but whatever. So, I think those fights were meant to be done after you catch every monster, and make some break damage limit weapon and a ribbon armor. But I do think break damage limit weapon are more useful at that point, even if ribbon is really useful. What I thought about all these fights, were fights that goes a little more experimental, if you see what I mean. They were not really about stats, they were more about some tricky mechanics and stuff like that. Now, I did like most of them, actually. I say there is only 3 fights I really want to talk here, which are the TP Strikers. Now, the TP Strikers was not a great fight. I really wasn't a fan of that one. And yeah, because I mean, this is the problem here, is that I found out that Threaten worked by myself, and after trying everything, and Mental Break was working too, and Magic was good. So it took some time to figure out the fight, and I heard you can do it without Threaten, by the way, unlike some YouTubers says. You can beat him without Threaten. But still, I think that fight was kinda bullshit. Because, yeah, he just have a monster that petrify you, and are stupidly fast. And yeah, I wasn't a fan of that one. For the point, like, if this was, let's say, a hero run fight where you have all stat max out and have much more option, I would have been fine. But I think this fight just comes too early. A fight like that comes too early. For that, maybe you should have put another statue effect instead of the stone one, and make the wolf susceptible to more statue effect than that. The other big one is Machi Madness. Oh boy, that one. So the Machi Madness was the pinnacle of an issue I had with the Pbirdman mod. And it was that there is fight that ask you to learn a certain statue effect, but the monster you are aiming has an incredibly high resistance to stay statue effect. Like, for instance, in the Machi Madness, you're supposed to use dots, like poison, like zombie plus regen, stuff like that. The serpent can be bio. It has an extremely high resistance to it, and this is just bullshit. Not only that, but I think for a fight that rely on statue effect, I think you could have made one of them at least susceptible to instant kill. You could have increased the damage they take for poison, because this fight was good in concept, but it was taking way too long. Because the poison damage was really low, the regen damage is really low, and there is just no other way. And the doom counter, which is the way I did it, is really slow. So I think you can increase the damage of the poison for this fight. You can also make one of them weak to stone or death. Make some love for the instant kill. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of this one. And the last one I want to talk about is Sunken Soul Seekers. Because it has also a way like Machi Madness, where you have enemies that are immune to everything and you have to use statue effect. And I want to talk about this one because that one was actually good in my opinion. there was a poor showcase of that fight in another playthrough, but well, if you only know the poison, then yeah, that fight is gonna be annoying, but there is actually other trick to it, which I do enjoy, like some manipulation with the sentinel, with the zombie effect on your character, or you can just confuse them and make it much faster. But yeah, these are the 3 fights I have stuff to say about, because the other one were much more straightforward. There was some tricky stuff, like here you have the disintegrate effect, which was in place, or here you had Seymour that was immune to magic. But overall, yeah, overall these were fun fights for me, except really for TP Striker and Machi Madness. These are the 2 fights I think needs to be reworked a little. Now, when you done the Guardian run, what I did anyway is I grind a little, and by the way, the best way to grind AP is Master Tomberry, there is no question about it, but you do need to be careful to not raise your magic defense too high, else it will not work and you will have to rely on killing a monster like Barbatos over and over again. So, after the Guardian run, you jump into the Veteran run. And most fights here were good. I liked most of the fights. They were long, but for the most part they were fun fights. I also like that Aeons were useful for the Veteran run, like the Dog Whisperer. Once you kill Fenrir, you can just summon your Magus sister and let them kill Vorban very easily. Same with Party Animal. I'd say if there is one fight I didn't like, Flock of Needles wasn't that great. I didn't like that one. Regeneration X was an annoying one too. And I really hate these guys. The Fun Guy 3. But I heard for another YouTuber player that apparently if you have some other stuff that I had, you can beat them much more easily. But the other fight, I love. Now, until you get to the Veteran run, things are fine. I didn't mind too much. I didn't need to grind that much for Guardian run and Veterans run. And I also had other stuff to do between them, like I did beat Omega between Guardian and Veteran run, and the Dark Oshu before the Guardian run. So I think up until you beat the Veteran run, things are fine. You don't need to grind that much, and grinding isn't that much of an issue. However, once you finish the Veteran run, you have the Hero run to tackle. And, well, maybe Demon Force Artificial, Double Trouble, maybe this free one will be doable without stat maxing. I think, however, when you start Soldiers of Fortune, then yeah, you will need max stat. And this is where we are talking about stuff I didn't like. So, as I said, the post-game is really grindy. There is a lot of grind to do. And the biggest grind, obviously, you know FF10, you know it, you have to do it, is the Purple Sphere grind to max out your stats. So, and I have issue there. Cause now they are team fight. So obviously they are more tricky to farm. They are also a bit more annoying to farm. I didn't find out that Titus Blitz Ace was really useful for early on in the grind. But there is one issue I really want to address, and this is the quality of life. Pbirdman, this is my biggest issue with the grind right now. You made it so that some enemies like opposite attract will always drop purple sphere. These two are fine because they will always drop purple sphere. They'll never drop anything else. And they also drop more purple sphere. Basically, you remove the dark matter drop. My question is why you didn't do it for the other one. Because this is really annoying. This is really the thing that pissed me off the most while I was grinding. Why, for instance, Fenrir can still drop dark matters? Why? There is no point in that. There is no point in that because first, when you grind Fenrir, you do not want dark matter, so this is just a waste of time. And two, why keep the dark matter drop when you did the Brother in Arm, which is a fight specifically designed to farm dark matters? Why? You did a fight. Actually, correction. You did 3 fights that are dedicated to grinding dark matters, which are Brother in Arm, which they can drop up to 12, I think, dark matter if you are lucky. Ultimate Buster, which can drop 15 or 20 dark matter, and Nemesis, which can drop 65. You did fight specifically designed for dark matter. Why then the monster that you do not want dark matter for still drop them? Why Fenrir still drop them? Why Hornet still drop them? Make no sense. Makes no sense. These guys should not drop dark matter. They should always drop purple sphere. Just that little change will make stuff much easier. And by the way, we are talking about purple sphere, but this is the same for Shinryu. When you grind Shinryu, you want to grind Wing to Discovery. You do not want to drop dark matter. So remove the dark matter drop. It is useless. It is just a waste of time in a game where grinding is already very long. I do not mind, however, for Brother in Arm, because Brother in Arm, you're gonna fight them a lot for dark matters. So you're killing 2 birds in 1 stone in this one, and you're also getting HP Sphere. You're not gonna grind HP Sphere until you reach Superpower. And by the way, since I did grind 600 dark matter, I had enough HP Sphere anyway, and didn't need to grind any other. So that one was good, and as a whole, the dark matters are much easier to get. Much easier, like really. Let's be real there. I did grind Reborn for 6 out of my 7 characters, because Yuna has already Earth. I did grind... What did I do? Oh, this was my early save, never mind. So, yeah, I did grind Reborn for all my characters. This took 600 dark matter. This is a good quality of life change, that there is no fight dedicated to that. Because if I had done this in the vanilla game, this would have taken an incredibly long time. In the vanilla game, you can only... I think the fastest way is one-shotting Sleep Sprout again and again and again, and you have only 1 chance out of 8 to get dark matters, and it's only 2 dark matters at once. So yeah, in the vanilla game, grind dark matters is much worse than Pbirdman mode. So that's a good quality of life change there. My problem really is, why didn't you remove the dark matter drop from everything else, where you don't need dark matter. So yeah, that's you know, that's the half quality of life. I really don't like that. And also, I think the opposite attract can drop up to, I think, 4 or 5 of their purple sphere. Fenrir and the other can only drop up to 3. Why? Why just not make all of them drop up to 5? So yeah, that's my main complaint about the grind. Pbirdman did make some quality of life change, but I think he didn't do enough. Now, let's talk about the Fortune Sphere, the one I hacked. So, as you saw in the beginning of this video, the grind for Fortune Sphere is actually not as bad as I thought, but I still think Earth Eater should drop more Fortune Sphere. Like, really, I think it would be good if you could grind the Luck Sphere and basically just grind the Fortune Sphere at the same time and not need to grind extra Fortune Sphere. Like, as I said, I grinded for 30 Luck Sphere, and by the end I got the 30 Luck Sphere. I had 74 Fortune Sphere. I think it would be better if basically Earth Eater was, well, like Barbatos, dropping 20 Fortune Sphere per fight. I think this would be better. You will not have to fight Earth Eater more than you need to kill the Great Sphere, and I think this would be the best. Sadly, this isn't the case. And, well, even though Dark Matter is easier to farm, I still think 99 Dark Matter is a lot. Is a very big cost for... for Ribbon. But, yeah, those are my points. Now for what so this would be the big grind you will do between Veteran and Hero Run. Now you will fight all the Hero Run except Superpowers, of course. So, Demon Force were a little too easy. Oh! Sorry. A little change I do like. I do like that since Luck is much harder to grind, basically, since they are in team and you need to beat a lot of stuff just to be strong enough to beat this guy. And this is something I think DNG missed in his run, is that grinding accuracy is actually a really good option. Case in point, Demon Force. I did a mistake. I thought they were immune to physical. They actually aren't, but they have a really high evasion, which is why in his run Burke had to rely on Ultima. I actually did not need Ultima for that fight. I could have done it with physical attack because my accuracy was maxed out and I was hitting this guy constantly with no problem. And I think in general this is something that Burke missed out in his run, is that accuracy is a really good stat in the Pbirdman mode because Thing has actual evasion. But more on that when I talk about the Dark Aeons, because that's for the Dark Aeons that it really matters. So now, Demon Force was a little too easy, same with the Artificial. I think these two were a little too easy, but yeah, I think these two were a little too easy. But I think they are meant to be introduction to the Hero Run. So yeah, I don't know if you should up the difficulty for this one. Maybe I was just over level compared to what you were expecting. Double Trouble was a kind of a meh fight. For me, things really start off with Soldier of Fortune. Soldier of Fortune was a really tough fight. The first time I did it. It's a pain in the ass to grind, but this fight is fun to beat. But to grind it is an annoying fight. Rock and Hard Place was a pain. This fight was arguably the hardest of all the Monster Arena, and I'm not joking. I think this was the hardest. Ultimate Buster was surprisingly really tough today. These two there gave me more trouble than Nemesis. No joke. Shinryu I liked. I like the fight. I like his last phase where he gained a lot of luck. He's kind of a pain to grind. Not as much as Soldiers of Fortune, but yeah, if he decides to spam Eraser right away, grinding him can be a real pain. Fortunately, another good quality of life change, the number of Wing of Discovery you need for breaking point limit has been reduced. Oh, that's good. So now I've beaten all the Hero Run fight, unlock superpower, and this was where I got access to Auto Ace and the Celestial Weapon. Now, this is where I did my final big grind, which is where I grind the 600 Dark Matter, where I grind all the Wing to Discovery to get breaking point limit, grind the luck even though I hacked the Fortune Sphere, grind the money, grind the Mega Elixir. I think this is the biggest point of grind here, between Veteran Run and Hero Run, and between, well, the rest of Veteran Run, Hero Run, sorry, and Superpowers. These are the two big grind, and I think they could make a little lower, in my opinion. Now, I don't know how much HP Pbirdman was expecting us to have. I did have this HP, and also I want to say that I saw Burke run, and he was saying that we need to fill out the sphere grid. We do not, really, because if you watch my sphere grid here, I maxed out the HP until this point, right there. All Lulu's grid is basically untouched. I didn't touch Lulu's grid. Well, you can see there is still 0.2 defense. I did not touch Lulu's grid. I did not touch this part right there at all. So I don't think you need to do all the grid, even though I did a pretty high coverage of the grid. And you have really place left for accuracy. And one thing I want to say is, even though break MP limit is good, it's a good quality of life, you do not need to grind MP Sphere. You have more MP than you ever need just with the base equipment. Like my Riku here, I have 645 MP, and this is with no MP Sphere grind at all. I can show you with Lulu. Well, actually, let's do this. There, Lulu has 662 MP. With the base, you do not need MP to grind MP Sphere in this game. In the mod, actually. You do need a lot of HP Sphere, unfortunately, because the breaking point limit is mandatory. I know this is gonna also piss off people, but I think it's a good change. Because yes, there is option to go to over 10,000 HP, and I think it is legit to have stuff that challenge you with that much HP. Unlike the vanilla game, where everything can be done in 10,000 HP. Now then, one other issue I had is basically when you reach that point, after you beat Nemesis, you grind your armor, you get your celestial weapon. Well, you do not have to do anything else. Nemesis, the Dark Aeon, and Penance, none of them will require any grind. So let's talk about the Dark Aeons. Because they were obviously the main event. And I have some mixed feeling about them, to say the least. So, first off, the hardest Dark Aeon was Dark Anima. There is no competition in that. But I also think on top of being the hardest, this was the most poorly designed one. I really didn't like the Anima fight. The Dark Anima fight was annoying as fuck. Cause basically she wasn't that hard actually. Well, there was some case of bad RNG where things can go wrong and she can screw you over. But really that you either die. Sorry, got trouble with the record. Any case, yeah. So I think this was a glitch for Dark Anima's Oblivion. On the other Dark Aeon, Dark Valfor was very easy, but I think it's the first one, so it's meant to be easy. Even though I do like its trick with sleep and regen. Dark Ifrit was one of these fights where at first I wasn't really sure about it, but when I redo it, it was actually a fun fight. There is one thing though about Dark Ifrit, but we will talk about it later. Dark Sea Ixion was kinda easy. I did like the Valfor addition, but ultimately it was one of the easiest. I think Dark Ixion and Dark Shiva were the easiest. Dark Shiva was surprisingly one of the hardest. Like her auto ace, her quick hit, her chance of instant death with Heavenly Strike. She was tough, man. And I didn't thought she would be that hard, but that auto ace really makes her deadly. On top of her much better survivability. Dark Bahamut was disappointing. Dark Bahamut was way too easy, and I think this comes back to the accuracy problem I talked about earlier. Burke ignores it, and so he had trouble touching Dark Bahamut. I had a maxed out accuracy, and I had no trouble touching it. And I think its counter was way too rare. And yeah, the Dark Bahamut was too easy. It was kind of disappointing. Dark Yojimbo! Oh boy! Dark Yojimbo. So of course it's 5 fights for Dark Yojimbo, so it's gonna be long. I think the 5 fight total took me 2 hours. This was pain. But I did like how varied it was. Like there is a fight where he was normal, a fight where he has auto protect and was more resistant, a fight where he was immune to physical and you needed magic, a fight where his overdrive feels fast. All good stuff, globally. I did not like the 5th fight, however, for one very precise reason. You went through the trouble of removing Dark Shiva auto ace, because obviously you have 2 bosses, you fight Dark Shiva and Dark Ifrit, so it's legit to make them less annoying. But you did kept the regen on Dark Ifrit, and for me this was a mistake, because once Dark Ifrit is alone, he just tank forever, and you're basically doing the Dark Ifrit fight all over again, and this was annoying. I think for the 5th fight of Dark Yojimbo, Ifrit regens should be removed. It doesn't add anything to the fight, and it comes at the end of a 5-fight gauntlet that in total took 2 hours, so I think the regen was not necessary. And finally, the Dark Magus Sister. They were a lot easier than I thought they would. And supposedly, I thought their hardest variant. I think they were a lot easier. I don't know if I got a really good RNG. Maybe. But they were a lot easier than Burke makes them out to be. I was surprised with that fight, honestly, especially when I got cuffed and was forced into the hardest variant. I really thought I was gonna have a lot more trouble than this, but in the end they were easier than Dark Shiva, they were easier than Dark Ifrit. So I was surprised for the Dark Magus. I thought they would be harder. And now Penance. Penance was a great fight. I have nothing else to say. He was a great fight. He was my second favorite fight in the game, in the mod. So Penance is great. Really, I have nothing else to say about Penance. He is great. He has a lot of mechanic. He has a lot of moves. He has a big move set. And really, this was a fun fight, even though it lasts 1 hour. Now, my biggest complaint, however, about all of this is that the post-game is not optional. The post-game is forced if you want to fight Yojimbo. And to me, this is a really bad change. This is the worst change of the mod. I hate that. I hate that because, like I said, in FF10, the main game is great, the post-game is bad. And this is sadly still the case with the Pbirdman mod. The post-game, while more interesting than in Vanilla, is still a big grind fest that will require a ton of effort and a ton of time. Time and effort that sadly not everybody have. And I think for people that just want to enjoy the story with a harder challenge, they should be able to get the ending. They should not be forced in doing the Dark Aeon and Penance to get the ending. I think this is a terrible change. Really. And honestly, this was a change so bad that this was the only point of the mod where I really thought I was gonna rage quit the mod, because I was so pissed off to having spent so much time on checked, only to get slapped in the face and yeah, no, you have to do the post game to get the ending, and I think this is a terrible change. Yeah, so I do not agree with this change. You could have done, I think you could have done something with Yojimbo fight without doing that. This was bad change. Let's talk about more positive stuff though. So I talk about the bosses. Let's talk about character balance. Because I think this is an important thing. We have 7 characters, and I did bother to train all 7 of them. So let's talk about my opinion on each of them. And I'm gonna start right off the bat. Riku is the best character in the game. There is no competition. Even if her celestial weapon is not the best, honestly, you are better doing a weapon with triple overdrive than keep her final weapon. Because her overdrive is just way too good. And honestly, not taking Riku is gonna make your journey much harder. And yeah, I don't see any reason to not put Riku in the final party. She is the MVP of the game, basically. Other than that, for reason I'm not sure to agree with, Yuna is mandatory to train. You are forced into training Yuna, because at least for Penance and for your Dark Yojimbo too, and other fight that I probably forgot, you're gonna have to summon a Neon Shield. There is no other way around. It's sadly. Cause in the case of Penance, Judgment Day, Infinite Stone, and Go Through Ribbon. And in the case of Dark Yojimbo, Zanmato deal 999 damage, Dispel Auto Life, and there is also the Delta attack for the Magus Sister, which you cannot avoid anymore, because you cannot separate them. So sadly, because of these fights, Yuna is pretty much mandatory. About the other character, Lulu was good, but ultimately I think you can replace her with any other character that has a weapon with magic booster, half MP cost, and maybe magic plus 20%, and break damage limit. Now I think the character that got hit with the nerf stick a lot was Waka. Put it simply, I think Waka in this mod is bad. Really bad. I think this is a bad character. I think this is one of the worst. This might be me. But first off, for the main story, his statue effect ability sucked for the main game. Their chance of inflicting them was way too low. They last only for one turn when they land. And a lot of stuff is immune to them anyway. So... and these were the selling point of Waka. And this doesn't work. So... yeah, Waka was kinda useless. The other thing that Waka was useless for is that until you reach the post-game, he has a good accuracy and good HP, true, but his strength is bad. His strength is terrible, his defense is not the greatest either, his magic sucks, his agility is not too bad, but yeah, I think, like, you have Titus, who is faster and stronger, you have Oron, who is stronger and tankier, you have Kimari, who is kinda in between Oron and Titus, and so poor Waka, I almost didn't use him. I only use him for water fight and early in the game. The other thing that Waka got nerfed is his attack reads. His attack reads are not good. They are way too weak, and they have no massive delay, so not really good. And the final nail in the coffin, world champion. Magic counter might be good. The problem is most single target magic for the Dark Aeons inflict statue effect that prevents Waka to counter. So this doesn't do anything for him. Double overdrive, I already say that attack reads is nerf, and his other overdrive are not worth using it. And finally, Auto Phoenix. Auto Phoenix will be good normally. The problem is when you get the sister weapon, you do your grind and all, you have breaking point limit, and you have, like I am there, you have like 80,000 HP, and so getting resurrected with only 10,000 HP is kinda bad, and you want, when it happens, to use spells like life and full life to get resurrected with all your HP or almost all of them. Sadly, if you have Waka around that throw Auto Phoenix, he's gonna get in your way. He's just gonna get in your way because you're gonna have to heal manually, and this takes much more time than just throwing a full life and get resurrected with all your life. So yeah, I think that Auto Phoenix wasn't good. And by the way, speaking of final weapon, the break MP limit on Lulu was good. Yuna was kinda meh. The magic defense plus 20% was nice, even though I didn't use it a lot. Now let's talk about the other characters. So for Titus, I think the curse proof on his weapon is bad. It doesn't do anything at the end, because the issue when you reach the Dark Aeons, the overdrive become useless, basically, because the Dark Aeon has so high defense that offensive overdrive like Titus and Waka's, which used to be great, just aren't. Oh, also one other thing that goes against Waka is like, unlike Titus can still have some use in the monster arena because Blitz Ace is a single target, so you can deal massive damage on one target. And when for the grind, this is good because for the grind you mostly want to kill one monster of the team, and the Blitz Ace really speed up that process. Waka, on the other hand, well, the attack freeze goes all over the place, so you have no control over it. So, one more point against Waka. Now for the other character, I think outside of Riku, the best character were Oron and Kimari for me. Oron, as his Celestial Weapon, has a much higher attack power than the other, and so this was make him Oron basically the best damage dealer in most of the Dark Aeon fight. Well, second most biggest damage dealer in all of the Dark Aeon fight. He also had the advantage of having defense plus 20%, which means he was taking a lot less damage from physical ability than any other character. But yeah, just the fact that with his Celestial Weapon he could deal a lot of damage without, even when he loses some HP, I think up until you get to the 50% range, he was doing max damage on armored enemy. Speaking of armored enemy, let's address the elephant in the room, Kimari. The character that is infamous for being useless, which I do not totally agree with in the Vice game, in the Pbirdman mode. I'm sad to report to you, Kimari's hater, that Kimari is really good in this mode just for his Celestial Weapon. His Celestial Weapon is amazing. I was skeptical about it at first, but his Celestial Weapon is just great, and it really makes him amazing, because you would think that the piercing stuff would be situational, but here's the thing. Every Dark Aeon except Valfor and Cindy were armored. The only fight where piercing wasn't relevant was for Dark Cindy and Dark Valfor, because they weren't armored, they were shielded. And for every other Dark Aeons, because they were armored, Kimari was the best damage dealer. He was the best. He didn't need crit to reach max damage when the target has auto protect. So he could use Quick Hit freely. He has RFMP cost to even make use of Quick Hit even more. And yeah, the piercing was carrying him. Even against opponents with Power Break, he was still dealing the max damage, which even Oron wasn't doing the max damage when he was power broken. Kimari just didn't care at all about Power Break. Kimari is awesome in this mod, man. At least for the Dark Aeon and the opponents part. And also, sadly, there is one thing I want to mention about Kimari. Mighty Guard is good. If, let's say you need one turn to heal with Riku with Final Elixir, you can use Kimari to buff. This is faster than untrusting Riku and waiting for her turn with a delay. However, while there was some good use for Doom in the Machi Madness, I want to address the big elephant in the room for me, and this is White Wind. Why? Why is this move so bad? White Wind generally is really useful in Final Fantasy game, but in this game it sucks. It just sucks. And why didn't you buff it? Like really, I have what? I have 255 magic, well no 243, but when you have 255 magic with Kimahri, White Wind heals for 5000. Why is it so weak? Make it stronger. I would have loved to have Kimahri as another alternative to Riku for support. Obviously, he's never gonna reach Riku support, but give us an alternative for people that don't want to use Riku. Even though there is really few people that don't want to use Riku. And I think Kimahri could provide a nice support. Now, speaking of other negative, I have to also say the absurd abundance of immunity that make no sense. Like, I don't get why so many stuff were immune to Oli. Like, I do get it for maybe the first fight of the arena, but when you reach the hero run, why? When you reach the Darkion, why? Why is there so many stuff that are immune to Oli? And the thing that pissed me off the most, why is there so many stuff immune to Aeons? Why Dark Yojimbo is immune to Aeons? I mean, you reach the Dark Aeon. When you reach Dark Aeon, your Aeon are not even gonna survive one turn. And they are gonna be used mainly as Aeon Shield. Let them do damage! And this is a big complaint. I think Aeon and Overdrive as a whole are kind of useless once you reach the post game. And this is bad. This is sad, and I think I think there could have been more playing around with statue effect. Like for instance, I complained about Dark Anima Healing. You could have made stuff more interesting, but let's say she casts Kuraja a lot. I'm talking about Dark Anima. She casts Kuraja a lot. Why don't you make her, I don't know, susceptible to shell or reflect, to at least give us a way to counter her healing? Or, I don't know, makes her weak to poison and make the poison deal only 1% of her HP. This would not be that game breaking. Especially if you give an option for her to heal from the poison. I don't think this will be game breaking. And also, this is just a little question, because this might not be possible, but about the break ability. Is there any way to make them just being basically damage increase ability or decrease ability? And I think I'm explaining myself poorly. I know Power Break and Magic Break are flat 50% damage reduction. Isn't there a way to make them like, I don't know, 20 or 25% damage reduction, and then you can make these two usable against bosses to make them use against bosses? And same for Armor Break and Mental Break. I know that they reduce defense to 0. Instead of that, why just not make it so that when someone has Armor Break or Mental Break, they take about 20-25% more damage from every attack that they receive? This would make them not as bad for the player, that's true, but that would make them useful against bosses. You could then implement those for the bosses without it being too game broken, I think. Give us some more variety, basically. Also, I think Evasion is still a useless stat. I think maybe it would be good if you made more attacks that could be evade. Maybe then Evasion could be a good stat. Because right now I think this is the most worthless stat in the Pbirdman mode. At least now accuracy has a valid reason to be increased, with our luck is annoying to increase in comparison. And I think I didn't forget anything. Because then the other negative point I have to say about the Pbirdman would be the lack of clue about how some mechanic work. But I can't really say that as a negative against Pbirdman, because I think this is more due to technical issue, to a lack of ways to give the player hints about how certain mechanic works. So I don't mind that, because there is technical issue. As I said in the beginning, you have to remember that this is a mod, this is not a game that is developing, this is a thing that you have to work with, and there is sadly limitation. Oh yeah, and in the same vein I was saying about breaks, isn't there a way also to reduce the effectiveness of haste and slow? Make them less game breaking basically, and well, give a chance to be used against bosses. You know, that's just the kind of stuff I would love to do. I would love to have statue effect that working more on super bosses, I think. In any case, I think I said everything I wanted to say. So there you go. That was my shit. I would not want to do that. Well, the Camelot music is nicer. So this is it. This is the end. I have nothing else to add. I think my conclusion is already very long, and yeah, these were all I can think of right now. I think I didn't forget anything. Oh yeah, there is one thing for the grinding. For a lot of time, your only option to grind Gil is Mimic. There is another way actually, which is Sting Ultimate Weapon, but I don't know if it's really reliable. But basically, yeah, you have to rely on Mimic grinding until you're strong enough to be Kotos at least, or stealing Ultimate Weapon effectively. Until that, money is kind of an issue, because grinding the mimics is really annoying. And when you unlock superpower, money is not an issue. You can just steal Omega Weapon and soul the Gambler Spirit. So yeah, that was the last point. But yeah, I said everything. So yeah, this was my journey with the Pbirdman mod. Overall, that was one hell of a ride. I really love this mod. It has a lot of lore. The grind could be made faster. I think there could be more quality of life. And yeah, I think there is flaws, but overall, I had more fun. I had still more fun with this one than the vanilla game. At least the monster arena was more fun. Even if some Guardian runs fights were annoying, it didn't just revolve around just having one monster each time, and basically you could just get overpowered right away and just brute force 90% of the monster arena, really. So I think this was a good change of pace. Yeah, I think this is basically the sum of it. There is some good change, but I just think the post game needs to be less grindy. Some fights in the Guardian runs may need to be tweaked a little, like Machi Madness and TP Striker. I think overall you could make statue effect more relevant. I think there is ways. But yeah. But still, that was a good mod. It was still very impressive in terms of modding skill. And I have nothing else to say that thank you, Pbirdman, for the ride. Sadly, if you release new version, I won't play it. Not because I would not like to. I would really like to help you out and test other stuff. But I think I'm done with FF10 right now. I think I will take a long break for FF10. Maybe in some years I will come back to the Pbirdman mod. If you update it, I will come back to it maybe in a few years, but for now, I'm really done with FF10. I spent, yeah, this is not my final save, 242 hours. Yeah, that's something I want to add. You need 232 hours, and I think I wasn't optimal because I could have just focused on 4 characters, and this would have made the grind faster. I still think you will need roughly... If I didn't act the Fortune Sphere, I think it would have taken like 2 or 3 hours to get it. So it would have taken me 240 hours, 235 hours to finish the mod legit. I think if you focus on only 4 or 5 characters, yeah, this should still take about 180, 200 hours, I think. If you're not losing too much time doing stuff that aren't needed, at least. But yeah, so thank you for the mod. That was cool. That was a really good mod. Just make the post game less grindy, please, and maybe try other method to make statue effect relevant. I don't know if Pbirdman will see this video. I hope he does. Yes, that's what I want to say. So I'm done with Final Fantasy X. I'm really done. I just can't play it anymore. I've been playing this mod for 3 months. And yeah, this is it. So that's it. Goodbye. And to the next time.